Postal Service kicks off Black History Month with the dedication of the Gwen Ifill Forever stamp, and the ceremony took place at the Metropolitan African Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. Gwen Ifill was one of the nation's most esteemed journalists. She was one of the first African Americans to hold a prominent role in both broadcast and print journalism. She was a trailblazer in her profession. And now, today, Gwen Ifill is the 43rd stamp in the Black Heritage Collection.
We have some wonderful speakers this morning, and you're going to learn a lot about Gwen's life, from her family, from her coworkers, and from dear friends. And we're going to begin with Gwen's brother, Bert Ifill. Dr. Bert, I'm tempted to call you Roberto Ifill, has a distinguished career in higher education. He's taught economics at Yale and other prominent universities. He's held senior administrative positions specializing in research and strategic planning. When he wasn't on campus, he was working with the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, the Brookings Institution, and the American Council on Education. I never had a brother in this life, but I gained one through my friendship with Gwen. And I can tell you, he's the brother that you want to have. Always supportive, always with a kind word, always there. You know, that's how you show someone you love them, by showing up and always there. And I can say from many a game night, the person that you want on your team. Bert Ifill.
Thanks, Michelle. Well, this is a very proud day for the Ifill family. Gwen was our sister, our cousin, our close friend, confidant, collaborator, colleague, sometimes many of those at the same time, right, Judy? You cared about her, you cared for her, you took care of her. She loved you and was so proud that you were in her life. Gwen carried the torch that warmed us, even as it enlightened us. One last thing. Every November 14th, I send a short poem to family and close friends commemorating the anniversary of Gwen's passing. With the announcement of the Black Heritage Stamp honoree for 2020, I had my inspiration for the following poem that I'd like to read for you now. It is titled, Gwen Forever. Gwen's smile, her confident smile, compassionate, consoling, cognizant, beams out at us. Posterity has given its stamp of approval. Gwen will be with us. When we pay our bills, she will be with us. When we send a note of thanks, she will be with us. When we invite friends, family to share celebrations, when we have something to say too difficult or complicated to express in a text or over the phone, she will be with us. Our memories, now direct and sharp, will fade over time, just as our lives will. But Gwen's image, legacy, spirit will endure.
I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, and I'm pleased to say another dear friend of mine, Judy Woodruff. Judy, as you know, is the anchor and managing editor of the NewsHour on PBS. Of course, Judy and Gwen worked together at the NewsHour as the first female anchor team for a national television news broadcast. Judy has covered politics and other news for more than 4 decades at NBC, at CNN, and at PBS. She was the chief Washington correspondent for the Lehrer NewsHour, and she anchored the award-winning documentary series Frontline with Judy Woodruff, one of my favorites. She also served as anchor and senior correspondent for CNN before returning to the NewsHour in 2007. We're so glad that you made that boomerang and came back to PBS. And she was a dear friend and confidant of Gwen. In the good times, in the tough times, Gwen and I talked on the phone several times a day, and I feel like I got to know you through those phone calls. She so cherished the time together on the air and your friendship, and I always laughed at the emails that you would send to each other to make sure that you didn't show up in the same color on the set. So they had a friendship that was deep and well coordinated. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you so much. Love you. What an honor it is to be here in this distinguished company to pay tribute to my work sister. And this is such a fitting tribute, as you've been hearing, to know that 3 years after she left us, Gwen Ifill's legacy lives in so many ways. A college in her name, internships, several of them, and now this stamp. If there ever was a reason, as you've been hearing, to pay your bills and write those long letters by mail to give email and apps a break, this is it. This is it. A reminder of this extraordinary journalist and person, this life force, this daughter of a preacher, child of immigrants from Panama and Barbados. There was something in the water the Ifill family drank. Brother Bert, the professor and the economist, Earl, the minister, Sherilyn, cousin, the great civil rights lawyer, every family member a standout in his or her community. And Gwen, the news reporter and anchor, the interviewer, the moderator of debates, the mentor to scores, probably hundreds of young journalists, the inspiration both to those who knew her and those who didn't. We in the PBS NewsHour family mourn her daily, and we remember her with love and respect, and a number of us are here today with you to honor Gwen. She was so often the voice of our values, the compass that kept us on track when there were decisions to be made. News people are making judgment calls all the time. What to lead with, what to leave out, what needs to be said. Gwen had the brilliance and the instinct and the power to speak up at the right moment. In this time of pervasive cynicism, political polarization, charges of fake news, Gwen was a beacon of honest, fair, rigorous, and devoted reporting. She knew and lived every day of her professional life that truth matters. The powerful must be held accountable. And yes, a vigilant free press is the lifeblood of a democratic society. One of my great gifts was working with Gwen for a decade, the last several years as her partner and the first women, yes, co-anchors of a national evening news broadcast. I told the story at her service here in this church about how we decided at the outset to defy expectations that our unlikely pairing might produce tensions. Surely there'd be jealousy, a catfight. But we decided to head it all off by staying close, letting no one put distance between us. We became so close, it was like an old married couple. At first, and you heard this just now from Michelle, we would email every night to make sure not to wear the same color on the air the same day. We couldn't be the Bobbsey twins, but at some point we began to intuit what the other was thinking. We would just show up and our jackets never clashed. We agreed that she looked great in purple, and so this stamp is perfect. We look and we see her big smile. We remember the beautiful person, the life force that was Gwen Ifill. And I decided to wear purple today in her honor, even if we clash. And finally, it is so stirring that we remember and celebrate Gwen today. In the same week, we celebrate the life of Jim Lehrer, who was a mentor to both of us. Thank you.
Judy, that was beautiful. And you do look beautiful in your purple. I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, a gentleman with decades of public service to our nation. I'm talking about Eric Holder, the 82nd Attorney General of the United States. I think he just got a new moniker, our forever Attorney General. Mr. Holder became the first African-American U.S. Attorney General in 2009. Previously, he was the Associate Judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. He went on to serve as U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., the first African-American in that position. And then as Deputy Attorney General, the #2 position in the Justice Department, where he supervised litigation, enforcement, and administrative activities in both civil and criminal matters. Eric was a dear friend of Gwen Ifill's. His wife was one of Gwen Ifill's doctors, and it is her birthday today. Happy birthday, Sharon Malone. How wonderful that you get to share this day with Gwen Ifill Day. And Eric's family also has roots that reach back to Barbados. So I think you often called her Cuz, if I got that right. Eric, please grace us with your words.
We were, in fact, cousins. Barbados, the pearl of the Caribbean. All you Jamaicans, Trinidadians, other islands, you're at best #2. There are a lot of Ifills, too. That's another Bajan trait. We have big families. Oh, mine's not that large, but there are lots of Ifills. We returned today to this church where 3 years ago we said goodbye to our beloved Gwen. Now that was a sad day. Well, today is a day to remember, a day to honor. This is a day for joy. Our lives are still not as complete as they were before Gwen's passing, but there are now more smiles than tears as we think about the accomplished woman receiving a unique and well-deserved recognition this morning. Now, Gwen Ifill was a pioneer, she was a mentor, and she was an example of what is best about us. She was a consummate journalist who understood the power, but also the responsibility that went with that role. With Judy, with the panel, through interviews and debates, Gwen, a proud black woman, consistently demonstrated what it meant to be excellent at her craft. And that excellence was good for us. It made the nation better. By focusing on the acquisition of truth, she helped to shape the political dialogue that impacts so much in this country. By exploring examples of injustice, she helped to make the nation more fair. She became, because of excellence, a truly national figure. So well known that she was depicted, I think you all remember, on Saturday Night Live. Queen Latifah, I remember that one. But her stardom never went to her head. She was always just Gwen, unfailingly nice, funny, and overly, extremely, wonderfully dedicated to her friends. Now, it was clear, having left us too soon, that her talents and skills would be missed. But today, more than ever, and in this city, at this time, and on this day, the need for her is painfully acute. This is a time for journalists to be brave, demanding, unyielding, persistent, and committed to sharing truth with the nation. This is not a time to embrace equivalence over fact. These are the traits that defined Gwen Ifill as a journalist and as a person. I hope that her friends in the media will dedicate themselves at this critical hour to acting in a way that is consistent with her example.
Our next speaker in our prestigious lineup is my friend Dorothy Tucker, the award-winning investigative reporter for WBBM-TV in Chicago and president of the National Association of Black Journalists. As Dorothy makes her way here, just a word about NABJ and how much it meant to Gwen. Gwen was a lifetime member of NABJ. There are several NABJ members I can see out in the audience today. Gwen attended the conference every year. And yes, she went to shake a leg, because that's some of what we do when we go to NABJ. But she mainly went to mentor young people. And as she rose higher up that career ladder, her commitment to NABJ did not waver, and her commitment to mentoring young people did not waver. And so, Dorothy, I know you had to get on a plane and fly some distance to get here today. We are so honored that you're here to share your memories of Gwen in honor of NABJ. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In our world, Gwen was a rock star. And I am indeed honored to represent Gwen's NABJ family. As Michelle mentioned, there are a number of our members here. Will the members of the NABJ please stand? Obviously, this is just a handful of NABJ members, just a handful of the people who loved Gwen Ifill. And Gwen, as you heard, indeed loved NABJ. Gwen was inducted into the National Association of Black Journalists Hall of Fame in 2012. She was inducted into the Washington, D.C. Society of Professional Journalists Hall of Fame in 2009. She was a recipient of the National Press Club's highest honor, the Fourth Estate Award. A best-selling author, she received more than 20 honorary doctorates. And these, and you've heard many here, are just some of the many honors Gwen received over the course of her remarkable career in journalism. I'd like to believe that Gwen would be most proud of the impact she has had on Black journalists worldwide, 4,100 of which I represent as president of NABJ. An honest media voice, an amazing, brilliant, and strategic journalist, a role model and mentor, a woman of strength and humility. These are just some of the things that our members know and say about Gwen. Her professionalism, her drive, and her graceful way of holding those in power accountable have always inspired our members, even after her passing. She inspired us to use our platforms to boldly report and speak the truth without compromise and with dignity. Not only was Gwen considered the heart and soul of the PBS NewsHour and Washington Week, but she also represented the heart and soul of what NABJ is all about. Former NABJ President Vanessa Williams put it best when she said, Gwen was the platinum standard for political journalists, and she was such an inspiration to African American women in the business. She was a tough, smart reporter with a warm, generous spirit who never hesitated to help financially or give her time and talent when asked, whether by NABJ or by a student. Gwen's mere presence would not only light up the room of every convention, conference, or panel she attended, but it also would ignite a passion for groundbreaking journalism in many of our young members who have gone on to become some of the most renowned and respected journalists in the world. Members like Yamiche Alcindor, NABJ's 2013 Emerging Journalist of the Year, who now stands on Gwen's shoulders as the White House correspondent for the PBS NewsHour. In a letter to Gwen for PBS, Yamiche wrote, growing up, wanting to be a journalist, the fact that you were covering the White House, that meant something. That meant that I could go and pursue the career and become a journalist. We are grateful for the role that Gwen played in helping to raise up a generation of fearless and unstoppable Black and female journalists by the example she was every day, on air and off. It is only befitting that the United States Postal Service has honored Gwen's legacy with a forever stamp. Her impact has opened the doors for so many others to live their dreams and fulfill their callings. And as long as journalism and NABJ are alive, that impact will never cease to exist. We will forever hold Gwen close to our hearts. Thank you.
We're fortunate to have another member of the remarkable Ifill family, Gwen's cousin Sherilyn Ifill. the Director, Counsel, and President of the NAACP Legal and Educational Defense Fund, or as my father would say, the N2ACP, which was founded by civil rights legend and later Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. Under Sherilyn's leadership, the organization has intensified its litigation challenging voter suppression, racial discrimination in the criminal justice system, and segregated education. It's an honor for me to present Sherilyn Ifill, Gwen's cousin and my dear friend, and an advocate for all of us.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you to the United States Postal Service, and thank you, Reverend Lamar, for this wonderful space, and thank you to all of you for being here. So to be an Ifill kid was to be most definitely not one of the cool kids. We had a funny name, we didn't have the latest clothes, we didn't have parties at our house or go on dates. No, we were the kids whose parents expected excellence in school, stressed the importance of our faith, and thought that your siblings were all the friends you needed. For Gwen especially, as a preacher's daughter, the expectations were clearly defined and being cool was not on the agenda. But today, Gwen is the coolest. Yeah. She is now part of that small group of extraordinary Americans commemorated by a United States Postal Service stamp, and through her, our entire family is now very cool. What this signifies to our family, many of whom are here today, is really truly beyond words. But more broadly, what this means to African Americans, to journalists, to all Americans who loved Gwen, is what you feel in this church today. Intense love and appreciation for the acknowledgement of the life and contributions of this truly extraordinary American woman. We have all still, even 3 years later, been trying to process the loss of Gwen, the loss to our family, but the loss to our country as well. The void in our evenings at 6 p.m., the loss of that voice that made sense of the world for all of us, the loss of a guide who, with calm and clear analysis, fit the pieces of our jumbled political world into some order, the loss of her friendship. But today, Gwen Ifill forever. Nothing has done more to heal the pain of losing her than those 3 simple words: Gwen Ifill forever. And at this moment in our country, those words mean so much. For journalists, it is an encouraging reminder that fact-based truth-telling, solid writing, careful analysis, respectful engagement, objectivity, and determined questioning will forever be the ingredients of excellence in your profession. For Black journalists who continue to struggle to have their voices heard, to have their perspectives lifted up, to have their platforms recognized, it means that your work is not in vain and that you must continue to do the work forever. For out, it means that Gwen is still there, lifting you and pushing you and having high expectations of you. For our family, Gwen Ifill forever means that our parents' and our grandparents' struggles were not in vain. They live on in each of us forever. And it is through the integrity of our work, our connections to one another, our love, our determination to reflect the values they instilled in us, our embrace of the family business, which is service, that those extraordinary people can live in us and through us forever. And for this country, Gwen Ifill forever at this moment means that although many of the things we see around us and lament today will pass away someday, there are some things that are just enduring. decency and ethics and professionalism, and love and collegiality and truth-telling, and real faith, touching people and connecting with them, takes the work that you do to another level, and it gives it and you the power to live forever. Gwen Ifill forever means that you cannot erase the extraordinary accomplishments and contributions that are made every day by children of immigrants, those people who have the courage to reach out and strive and make it to these shores, and who are determined to make the promise of America live on in their lives and in their families. Gwen Ifill forever means that whatever we see around us, the best of us lives on. She's still teaching us. She's still encouraging us. She's still showing us the way. And we're so grateful to the United States Postal Service for this well-deserved, but nevertheless astonishingly cool honor. Thank you.
And I have enjoyed being your MC for this historic celebration of Gwen Ifill. It has been an honor. Thank you for all the love and support. And as we leave, Gwen's brother, the Right Reverend Earl Ifill, will conclude today's ceremony with a benediction.
Let us all stand for the benediction. Thanks, O God, for boundless mercy from thy gracious throne above. Thanks for every need provided from the fullness of thy love. Thanks for hours of sweet communion, when by thee our souls are fed. Thanks for grace in time of sorrow, and for joy and peace in thee. Thanks for hope today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. And the blessings of God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit be with you and your loved ones, both today and always. And together we say, Amen.
And I'm Kristal Hart reporting from Washington, D.C. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching, and mail a letter today.